Okay, so today is International James Bond Day, or Global James Bond Day, because October the 5th is the anniversary of the original release of Dr. No in 1962. Now, I've done a few videos on the channel lately, so I'm going to cover Bond again for this one. Before I do, here is every single gun barrel sequence played together simultaneously. In fact, sorry, I was misjudged that. It's a bit chaotic and a bit of a mess. Can we cancel that? It's just loud, it's just total mess. That was misjudged. Right, okay, let's start the actual video now. So this is one of my cabinets that I've got, and as you can see I've got the Aston Martin Lego version that I did a video about a couple of years ago on the channel. That's Rude Dog, that's nothing to do with James Bond. I've got another Aston Martin there. Not a big fan of the fragrance, the 007 fragrance, but there it is. What I really wanted to show you was this. I was a member of the James Bond International fan club back in the 90s, and you got these cool like badges with it as well. You got this gold card. It was kind of like a Blue Peter badge, if you know what that means. It got you into certain events cheaper. It was kind of cool to have. I was also a member of the James Bond Collectors Club as well, which was pretty cool. So I managed to keep a few of those little items anyway. Now, in terms of the home video releases, the first ones I had were these. They were released in the mid-90s, I think, to coincide with GoldenEye coming out. The next ones that came out with this, pretty much the same thing, but they had that artwork down the side. Then the DVDs came out in the year 2000, had this kind of style to it as well, which is pretty cool. That was around about 2000. 2006, this box set came out in an attaché case with an extra disc, a lot of extra features. It was definitely worth getting. But yeah, and generally speaking, those are the additions that I had of the actual videos. Obviously, since then, we've had the Blu-ray sets come out, and also the Daniel Craig ones have had a 4K Blu-ray release, which is excellent. I understand on some streaming platforms there's maybe some 4K options, although that'd be a bit limited, really, with the technology of streaming in terms of the difference between a physical copy and streaming. Obviously, streaming is compressed. It'd be really nice if they do actually bring out the full James Bond collection in 4K Blu-ray so that we can enjoy those. Currently, like I say, it's just the Daniel Craig ones. But that's my past anyway in terms of the actual home video collection. So I'm not going to focus too much on home videos, but I kind of started that, so I might as well finish. When it comes to the Blu-rays, this is the set that I opted for. There's a few different variants of this, but this is one of the most up-to-date ones. It goes all the way up to Spectre, so you've got all the films there. The inner box of the thing is kind of broken down into this kind of manner, as you can see here. The inner sleeves of this aren't the best. They're not very imaginative. That's pretty much what you get there. I could have done better myself on a computer, to be honest, with a printer. But whatever, you can see kind of how the discs are managed, and it's one disc for each film. I don't think there's any bonus discs or anything, because there's a lot of content on each disc, so that's pretty good. And when you close it, it makes a weird noise as well, like that. So that was the box, not me making that noise anyway. Just let's be clear there. But since then, well, actually, to be fair, there is one thing. There's a deluxe version of Casino Royale which I felt was worth keeping. This is a Blu-ray set. There's a very similar DVD set of this. It's a very nice kind of glossy thing. It's got an extra disc with some extra stuff that's not included in that box set. So that's worth having from a collector's point of view. And then finally you've got the Daniel Craig 4K Blu-ray set, which came out last year. I don't know if they've already done it, but you can get these as an individual release as well. So all 4 films individually. But I just got the box set because that was what came out last year. And I was pretty impressed as well. So other stuff as well. It's not really part of the same franchise, but I got these. There's Casino Royale. It's the 60s version. It's kind of slapstick. There's a bit of a weird backstory to that. I'm not going to go into the details. I'm not a big fan of this, to be honest, but I have it just from a collector's point of view, as well as Never Say Never Again, the 1983 film. I feel kind of like a traitor owning this. It's not the best film, and again, it's got its own kind of backstory to it. But interesting anyway. Obviously, I got an imported version of this, hence the name on there. The only other things I've got to show you in terms of my video collection is the Everything or Nothing documentary for the 50th anniversary that came out in 2012. It had a cinema release to coincide with Skyfall. Very good documentary, and it's got collaboration from all the Bond actors apart from Sean Connery, because I think he's on bad terms with the producers basically, so it was a bit unsavoury if it had been in this, but very interesting anyway. It was tastefully done as well. And finally, this Oh man, this is such a good documentary. I thought it was just going to be interesting to me because I'm a hardcore fan, but generally speaking, I think even if you're not, I think you should still watch this because it's really good. It's basically George Lazenby's story in his own words, and it's a really good documentary. It's done kind of with him telling the story, but also with actors kind of reconstructing things. And it's very funny as well, so I definitely recommend watching it. It's a bit of a tearjerker at points as well. But I'll let you just watch it yourself and judge for yourself. Jane Seymour is also in this. You might remember she played Solitaire in Live and Let Die. So that's my video collection anyway. I really wanted to do this video, just kind of talk more about my my memories of just being a fan of Bond and what my kind of perceptions of it were growing up and how I kind of grew to become like a really big fan. To me, Bond is like my biggest thing that I'm into. It's not necessarily the thing that I've spoken about most on the channel, although I realise I have been doing lately. But it's the thing that is like the biggest thing to me, bigger than Star Wars, bigger than Back to the Future, although I do love those things as well. So really I didn't become like a massive Bond fan until the mid-90s when I was about 15 years old. Obviously GoldenEye came out around about then, and that was a period where there'd been a 6-year gap effectively where we'd had no Bond films come out for quite some time. 1989's License to Kill with Timothy Dalton was the last film up to that point. Because of legal issues we didn't get another one till 95. Got a new Bond as well, Pierce Brosnan. I didn't really know much about him at the time. I think the only film I knew him from was Mrs. Doubtfire. In fact, I can remember watching that film round a friend's house and somebody was saying, oh, that guy, he's going to be the next Bond. Really? Okay, fair enough. But there you go. GoldenEye came out and it was a really big hit, and it deserved to be as well because it was a really good film. That to me is one of the top tier Bond films. Pierce Brosnan ones went kind of downhill after that, but that's a different discussion for a different day. But yeah, that was kind of what got me into it, and around about that time, like I say, that box set of the, well, it wasn't a box set, you could get them individually, the videotapes came out, and I got some of them bought. I had some of them kind of recorded off TV here and there. I seem to remember at one point I actually swapped a Game Boy for a load of Bond films on tape from a friend of mine when I was in my last year at secondary school. This was around about 96, 97, something like that. And managed to get the entire collection. And over the years leading up to around about 2000, obviously the Pierce Brosnan ones were coming out through that time. I don't think I ever had like the full tape collection. I think I had some like ones that I'd copied by using a SCART cable between two VCRs at the time, and I photocopied the cover off a friend, so it's kind of like knockoff versions, but they were all fine. But then when the DVD revolution kind of came around in it was like 98, 99 when that came to us in the UK. I was one of the first, I think I was the first person I knew to own a DVD player. And the first ones that were released, you had GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies that were available in a very basic DVD at the time. And then, I think it was June 2000 I seem to remember, that was when The World Is Not Enough came out to buy. So that was the film that had come out the November before that in 99. So June 2000, The World Is Not Enough came out on home video to buy, as in home video DVD. You couldn't buy it on tape at the time. You could rent it on tape, but if you had DVD you could buy it and own it, which was a real advantage at the time. But also the same day that got released, they also started releasing a back catalogue of films. So Dr. No came out. So the same day that you got The World Is Not Enough, Dr. No came out to buy as well. So I remember I got those two in the same day. So it was like the most recent film and the oldest one came out. And then for every consecutive month after that, in fact, no, I think it was May actually, it wasn't June, it was May 2000, because I remember June was From Russia With Love came out, and then July was Goldfinger, and it kind of went on. I think after a while they started releasing 2 a month as well, and it became quite an expensive thing really, because I was making about like £500-600 a month or something, a job that I was doing, and these were like £20 for a film or something. It was very expensive, still is to be fair. You pay that for a 4K nowadays. This was 20 years ago. Now these were 1-disc DVDs, but they had really good extra features on them and a lot of unseen stuff at the time, including each one had a documentary called Inside whatever the film was. So if it was Goldfinger, it'd be Inside Goldfinger. and it was narrated by Patrick Macnee. There were loads of other extra things that you get on there as well, lots of like old featurettes and trailers and so on. So that went on through early 2001 when it kind of caught up with itself. So you had the Timothy Dalton ones, and then they re-released the Pierce Brosnan ones that were already available, the first 2 Pierce Brosnan ones, but in this new package with the extra features. And like I say, along the spine of each DVD, it kind of did the 007 logo. So when you got them all, you had the 007 logo. And I think when Die Another Day came out in 2002, they actually continued that, because it was just the tip of the gun at the end of the 7 on the 007 logo had a little bit of space there to be added when Die Another Day came out in 2002. So that was a DVD set for all those. Then in 2006, like I say, they did release all the films again in a massive box set where you had like 2 disc special editions, so you had a load of extra features. All the extra features were on their own disc. The film itself, because it had space on the disc with no extra features for the film, they released it in like a higher definition, not quite Blu-ray standard, but better than it was before. So I got that. That was quite expensive. I seem to remember it was £150 or something for the attaché case, and you got loads of extra little things with that as well. And then obviously the Blu-rays come out, but from a collector's point of view, that was kind of that's my memories of collecting all these films and rebuying them over the years. Obviously I'd seen a lot of these films on TV as a child, so obviously I knew of the Bond thing. I wasn't as much into it. I was more into things like Star Wars and Ghostbusters, that kind of thing, when I was a lot younger. But as I kind of grew a bit older, obviously Bond became more the cool thing, especially like I say when the Pierce Brosnan era kind of kicked in. That was a really good time to be a fan. So from other point of views, other collections, in terms of the music, I'm going to do a video very soon. I'm saving this video when I'm going to talk about the Bond soundtracks and so on, because as I've said in a previous video, I'm currently finishing off my LP collection of Bond soundtracks, so I won't talk too much about the music for now, being a collector of that. But lots of other little things as a fan, memories that I can share that you might remember. I remember in the early 2000s, I was a little bit old for it to be honest, but I still bought it anyway. There was a magazine that came out, I don't remember if it was the 007 Files or something it was called. And you'd get all sorts of like things with these little trading cards, I seem to remember, and like a spy lens where you'd put it over an image and like some words would show up. It really was for kids, but it was quite interesting because you got all these diagrams and stuff of the cars and the villains' lairs and all this kind of stuff. So it was interesting to see. There's been various things like that come out over the years. One thing I really liked was the James Bond International fan club, and also the 007 magazine, I think it's called. The 007 magazine was, from what I understand, a separate thing to the fan club, but you'd get the magazine through the fan club at the time in the 90s. Not quite sure how that works, but I know Graham Rye, I believe he still runs the 007 magazine, although the fan club itself, I'm not quite sure if that still exists in the same capacity as it once did. But you can subscribe to the magazine from what I understand, and they're still putting out content as well, and they've actually done some omnibus editions of the old magazines, and they are very impressive. I actually bought some fairly recently, within the last year. And they were really good. I'd definitely recommend checking out 007 magazine. The guy's still doing it, he's very dedicated as well, and he knows his stuff as well. I think it's Graham Rye, and he's written some books as well. I know he did one about Bond girls as well, so definitely a good thing to check out if as a throwback to, like I say, it's not quite the way that the fan club once was back in the day, but it's nice to still have the magazine there anyway. So from a fan point of view, you might not remember that still exists. Obviously there was a computer games. I wasn't really into computer games to be honest, but I played some of them. I remember Nightfire. I wasn't very good at that. There's one called 007 Racing, which was really bad from a computer game point of view. It was a good idea, but it was bad. Just the gameplay itself was pretty terrible. But the James Bond computer game thing is like an entire separate subject, and I can't really comment on that. So, but some people, I'm sure you've got happy memories of it, so leave a comment if that's the case. Other stuff, toys, that kind of thing. I remember James Bond Jr. I never watched it. It was a cartoon in the 90s. I seem to remember a lot of toys on the shelves for that, although I never owned any. I remember Sideshow Figures. They released a load of these 12-inch figures that were quite nice, and they had like fabric clothing and like a load of gadgets and stuff that came with them. The likenesses in a lot of the instances were very good. I had the entire collection up to a point, but then I ended up selling it when I moved house on eBay a few years ago, or shortly after I moved house. Just you can't keep everything, I guess, can you? So, but they were nice to have back in the day when they came out. Other things, there were the Gilbert toys as well that came out in the 60s. You can still get a lot of them. They were mass produced, so it's nice to have these vintage items, but you can still get them and they're not terribly expensive as well. Like I say, they were mass produced, and I think if you are a James Bond collector or wanting to start a collection, I would look up, from a vintage point of view, James Bond Gilbert, because they did all sorts of things. There were some of these little figurines. They're the most common ones, usually about that small, and I think I've got most of them already, but again, they're not particularly valuable. You can afford it really if you've got a bit of money aside. If you had like £100 or something, you could certainly get like a decent bundle of those. Maybe not all of them, but you can get like a decent chunk of them. Some of them in boxes as well. So I think I've rambled on quite a bit, to be fair. I could really talk all day about this, my memories of just being a fan in general. I'd really be interested to know like which actors anyone's met from the Bond films. I know a couple of people that have met some of the actors that have been in the films, like Richard Kiel, who played Jaws. I know somebody who's met him. There's a photograph of them together. I think the only one that I've met is Julian Glover, who was in For Your Eyes Only. I met him a few years ago. He was the villain in For Your Eyes Only. Met him at Comic Con in London, I think it was, back in 2017. Really nice guy. We had a bit of a chat as well. It wasn't just an autograph and then kind of bugger off. I got a photograph with him. I got to have a good chat. We talked about him being in the Avengers. It kind of lit up when I mentioned that, because I think it was a lesser thing that he gets asked about. Because I remember I said, were you in a couple of episodes of the Avengers? And he was like, oh yes, yeah, which ones do you remember? It was like, has nobody asked you this before? Because I would have thought he would have talked about that before. He'll be used to talking about Game of Thrones and Star Wars, I imagine. So yeah, it was really nice experience, was that. But yeah, we were talking about his role as a Bond villain as well, and I remember one of the main things he was saying that he really liked playing that character because he was a very realistic kind of character. Unlike a lot of the other Bond villains that are a bit kind of larger than life, which is great, possibly better, to be honest, a better concept. But his character was a lot more grounded, a lot more down to earth. Obviously, it was the first film after Moonraker, so they were kind of trying to rein it back in, so they went for that kind of villain. And he was great. He's one of my favourite Bond villains, to be honest. Especially now having met him as well, because I've got that kind of sentimental bias to it. But yeah, I'd be interested to know if anyone else here has met any of the actors that have been in any of the films, or anybody that's worked behind the scenes. It'd be an interesting thing to hear anyway. If you've got any stories, let us know in the comments. So, like I say, happy Global James Bond Day, October 5th, obviously. Today is the anniversary of the original release of Dr. No, when that got released in the UK, October 5th, 1962. In a couple of years' time, we'll be seeing the second anniversary of that. I don't think we'll be having any actual Bond film come out that year, obviously. I know for the 40th anniversary we had Die Another Day come out. Skyfall we had in 2012, that was for the 50th anniversary, that was a big one. For the 60th anniversary there's not going to be a film come out for that, let's get real. But who knows, they might do like a Blu-ray release of the original back catalogue of films by then. Here's hoping for that, because I definitely will be up for buying that anyway. So I will leave it there. Brand X Reviews. I've done a few videos on this channel already in the last few weeks covering Bond. Some of them are irrelevant now because I was talking about the upcoming release of No Time to Die, and that's been pushed back to April. So, but check them out anyway. And there's going to be some more coming up as well, so you can subscribe to us on the channel. I say us, I have a co-reviewer. Speaking of which, we're going to be doing some Halloween season related videos. There's some information coming up on that shortly after this video. tagged on to the end of this video, so keep watching for that. You can follow us on Instagram as well as YouTube and Facebook. But for now, I will leave it there and say thank you very much for watching. James Bond will return. Hi guys, currently in production. We are proud to announce that this year we are going to be doing the 8th annual Halloween BXR special. It's been pretty much a tradition on the channel ever since we began back in 2013, that every October leading up to Halloween night itself we do a video or a series of videos, usually it is the latter, talking about our favourite scary movies and other moments in pop culture history. You can go back on the channel and check out our previous ones. I'm going to set up a playlist in the playlists section for our Halloween series. This year obviously we're going to be continuing that tradition. I'm going to get myself, my co-review of the core, involved in this. It's currently in production, as I say, and there may even be some Topher jokes thrown in too.